Good evening all. I hope you are doing great. Welcome back to the live streaming of the daily news analysis. Today we'll be understanding the important news articles of 28th May 2022 and I am your educator Prithviraj Singh. Let us begin with the session. Well, good news coming in. India has marked its presence in the International Booker Prize. An International Booker Prize is being won this time by an Indian author, Geetanjali Shree. Very, very important, and I expect a question on this. Geetanjali Shree, an Indian author, has been awarded with International Booker Prize. It is being given for the books, which are exemplary work in the literature. Now, her book was a Hindi novel named Ret Samadhi, right? And it was being translated in English as Tomb of Sand, correct? So they may ask you that which among the following Indian authors have won 2022 International Booker Prize? So the answer is Geetanjali Shree for her Hindi novel Ret Samadhi. However, it was being translated into English as Tomb of Sand. Well, the other Indian authors who have won the Booker Prize in the past are Salman Rushdie, Kiran Desai, Arundhati Roy and Arvind Adiga. I repeat, Salman Rushdie, Kiran Desai, Arundhati Roy and Arvind Adiga. So these were the Indian authors who have won the International Booker Prize in the past, and Geetanjali Shree has won 2022 International Booker Prize. Now, for the first time in the history of the International Booker Prize, a Hindi translation, that means a translation of a Hindi language book had been nominated for the award. So पहली बार ऐसा हुआ है कि कोई हिंदी जो book है वो English में translate होके International Booker Prize जीता है. So it's a very big achievement and it would pave the way for the development of Hindi literature in the world. Geetanjali Shree. So earlier International Booker Prize was called as Man Booker Prize, and it was launched in the year 2004. So the same Man Booker Prize today is called as International Booker Prize, and it's being awarded every 2 years, right? So this is a fact which you have to keep in mind, every 2 years, correct? And it was being published in English. Definitely if it is in regional language, then it has to be translated in English. Well, in the last year 2021, it was being won by David Diop and translator Anna Mosovakis, and the name of the novel was At Night All Blood is Black, right? So the prize money is €50,000, and these are some details about the same. So I strongly expect a question on this. Moving to the next news article on the screen. Now, there has been a meet of the NSA National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, and he has said that India is guided by the interest of Afghans. Well, we all know that Afghanistan today is under Taliban regime. Although India has not, affiliated herself to the Taliban regime, India always pushes for democracy. But at the same time, they have vehemently opposed the Talibani propaganda, their policy of which is actually gender biased, and Ajit Doval is saying that Afghanistan must ensure education for girls. So it was the 4th regional dialogue on security at Dushanbe. Dushanbe is the capital of Tajikistan. So India is saying that we are the partners of Afghanistan's progress, developmental progress, economic progress, democratic progress. We will provide all the humanitarian aid, and India would remain an important stakeholder in Afghanistan, right? So India is pushing for the employment to women in Afghanistan, employment to youth, so on and so forth. Now, India has sent about 17,000 metric tons of wheat. गेहूं का 17,000 metric tons का consignment भेजा है. Although it was being they committed to send 50,000 MT of the wheat consignment. They also sent the vaccine doses for COVID-19 and polio. At the same time, some emergent import vital medicines, and the winter clothes were also being sent by India. right? So India has always refused to recognize the Taliban regime, but it always works for the development of economic development of Afghanistan, correct? Because of the reason that if Afghanistan is not stable, it would become a safe haven for the terror groups, which would spur, the Pakistani terror groups would find a safe place in Afghanistan, and it would be detrimental to India's interest. So therefore, stability in Afghanistan is very vital for India. So this is a location, geographical location of Afghanistan. On the screen you can see Kabul, Kandahar and Mazar-e-Sharif, important cities, and it's a landlocked country, right? It is rich in the iron resources, the ferrous oxide resources. Iron ore is there. It is very famous for iron ore. And it is a landlocked country, as you can see, to North Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Pakistan, Iran. And here in Iran, you have a port called the Chabahar port, where India has invested. Chabahar port, right? So all the consignments are being traded through Chabahar port into the Central African countries via Afghanistan. Are you getting my point? So therefore, Afghanistan plays a very, very important role for the trade in the Central Asian countries, and India is doing so through Chabahar port, where India has already invested, right? So there are many development projects which the government of India has actually in the process at Afghanistan. Let us see. So India's stakes in Afghanistan, well, it has we always look at Afghanistan as a strategic advantage, because if it is stable, it would, if it is not stable, it would become a safe haven for the terror groups. So stability in Afghanistan is very important. Then India is investing in the civilian sector. Similarly, many developmental projects are being started by the Indian government, and India is now today one of the largest investor in Afghanistan. Well, these are the important projects by the Indian government, like Bamiyan Herat rail link. Very, very important. They may ask you that India has invested into Bamiyan Herat rail link. So where it is located? So it is in Afghanistan. Now Bamiyan is a province in Afghanistan, and it is being known for its iron ore reserves. तो यहाँ के सारे जो आयरन और रिजर्व्स हैं, ये हेरात तक ट्रेड होते हैं, एंड दे हैव बिल्ट अ रेल लिंक टू कनेक्ट द हाजीगक माइंस टू हेरात. तो बामियान के अंदर, बामियान प्रोविंस में, यू हैव द हाजीगक माइंस which is known for iron ore, very high quality iron ore. At the same time, India is developing the Iranian port of Chabahar, as we discussed, which will be linked to Afghanistan via Dilaram-Zaranj highway. So India is also developing Dilaram-Zaranj highway, and if peace is established in Afghanistan, it could become a major trading hub as a corridor of connectivity in the heart of Asia. Correct. So very important. Now we'll understand these projects. So this is, as I said, the Bamiyan province. As you can see the map on the screen, Bamiyan province. So this is your Bamiyan province, and it is known for ferrous oxide, FeO2, iron oxide. So you have this mine of iron ore called as Hajigak iron deposit. So from here it is being traded to Kandahar, and to Herat. यहाँ पे हाजीगाग से हेरत तक they have built a rail line. India has built a rail line. Very important. So in this way, India is contributing every bit for the economic prosperity of Afghanistan. And from here, Chabahar is there, where all the trade activities take place to this landlocked country of Afghanistan. I hope it is clear. So we have come to understand about Bamiyan province, then Hajigak iron deposits. Now this is your Dilaram-Zaranj highway, right, from B to C. So this is the GPS, pictorial representation. Dilaram-Zaranj highway is also being built by India, right, and how it goes down till Chabahar. So in this way, it is connected to the port or Gulf of Oman, right. So from Karachi, from Bombay, the consignments are being sent. They are being traded at Chabahar, and then the import-export takes place from Afghanistan. Very, very important, right? So moving to the next news article on the screen. Well, BRICS group may soon begin expansion process. Well, we all know that BRICS as a grouping includes Brazil, all the developing countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Although China is now a developed country, including Russia, but majorly this group was formed for the developing countries, BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Now they are, thinking to expand. They're thinking to broaden their group to include new developing country as their members. Now the countries which are into the contention to become the members of the BRICS are Argentina, Indonesia and Egypt. Now these three countries, which are the developing countries, one in Asia, Southeast Asia, then Egypt, an African country, Argentina, a South American country, are among the countries that have previously indicated their interest in joining the BRICS grouping, right? And this would be called as BRICS plus, right? तो ये क्वेश्चन पूछा जा सकता है कि BRICS plus क्या है और उसमें कौन कौन से कंट्रीज ने they have shown their interest or their claim to become the member of BRICS plus. So they are Argentina, Indonesia and Egypt, correct? तो इससे जो इमर्जिंग मार्केट्स के अंदर जो कोऑपरेशन है वो और ज़्यादा बढ़ेगा एज दे बिलीव. वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, यहाँ पे ब्रिक्स के लिए न्यू NDB बना था, न्यू डेवलपमेंट बैंक. फोर्टेलेजा एक जगह है, वहाँ पे ये डिक्लेरेशन हुआ था, फोर्टेलेजा डिक्लेरेशन. Under Fortaleza Declaration, New Development Bank or NDB was being formed for the BRICS countries to finance the infrastructure activities, and it is based in Shanghai, China. Correct. Now even Bangladesh and UAE would be joining, joined last year, and Egypt and Uruguay approved to join the financial institution. I'm talking about the bank and not as a group. So Bangladesh and UAE joined the NDB last year, and even Egypt and Uruguay have approved to join this financial institution. Fortaleza Declaration, ये क्वेश्चन पूछा हुआ भी है यूपीएससी में पहले. So BRICS represents 40% of the world population and 30% of the GDP, and it was founded in the year 2001 by, initially it was being coined by an economist, Jim O'Neill of Goldman Sachs, and in this way it was formed in the year 2001. We have talked about NDB and how Fortaleza Declaration led to the formation of NDB, New Development Bank. Right. So it talks about clean energy. Fortaleza Declaration was in 2014. So today it talks about, the focus areas are clean energy, transport infrastructure, irrigation, sustainable urban development and economic cooperation, correct? And in the voting, every country possesses equal rights, equal votes at NDB. Right? I'm talking about the equal rights. Moving to the next news article on the screen. Well, this article talks about the skill development initiative and how it can be used at the nuclear power plants. Well, we all know about BARC, Bhabha Atomic Research Center, which is a pioneer research center for nuclear physics in India at Trombay in Maharashtra. Well, it is, apart from the nuclear science, it is also involved into devising new user-friendly and cost-effective technologies in the fields of nuclear science, radioisotopes, industry, health and agriculture. That means जो cost effective new user friendly techniques है उसको build करने के अंदर भी it is putting its efforts. जैसे कि इन्होंने एक नया एक device बनाया है which is very cost effective called as foldable dryer. As you can see on the screen, it is there. तो ये it works on the solar energy. It traps the solar energy and it keeps the food warm, and so that it results into the increase. It ensures the longer shelf life of the food, including fishes, etc. Correct. So So therefore such small technologies are being devised by BARC, and then again, as I said, that it would help the local people, the unemployed youth, to get employment opportunities in this sector, correct? And this is called something as Akruti. Akruti is Advanced Knowledge and Rural Technology Implementation. So they may ask you, what is Akruti? Advanced Knowledge and Rural Technology Implementation, which is a program run by the BARC, and it is being implemented at Tarapur Atomic Power Station at Maharashtra, and similarly at Kudankulam Nuclear Power Plant. तो वहाँ पे जो लोकल जो अनएम्प्लॉयड यूथ है उनको इससे जॉब वगैरह मिलेगी स्किल डेवलपमेंट के थ्रू, राइट? So in this way it is in use. Now here we must understand that Kudankulam is in Tamil Nadu, and a nuclear power plant. Then again, NPCIL, Nuclear Power Corporation of India, is based in Mumbai, Maharashtra, and it is wholly owned by the government of India, responsible for the generation of nuclear power for electricity. Okay, so nuclear power for electricity, and it's there in Bombay, Maharashtra. Now BARC is there in Trombay, as I just discussed. It is India's premier nuclear research facility, and it has also designed and built India's first pressurized water reactor at Kalpakkam. तो कलपक्कम पावर प्लांट है ये, it is being designed by BARC. It is a 80 megawatt land based prototype of INS Arihant's nuclear power unit. तो INS Arihant जो nuclear power सबमरीन है उसकी जो पावर यूनिट है वो दैट इज बीइंग बिल्ड बाय द BARC, इंडियाज फर्स्ट प्रेशराइज्ड वाटर रिएक्टर एट कलपक्कम. So these are the nuclear power plants in operation, under construction, and the third category are those power plants which are under planning, right? So in operation is Rawatbhata, Rajasthan, as you all know, very very important, and I'm sharing with the list here. Rawatbhata, Rajasthan, then Tarapur, as I just mentioned, Maharashtra. Kudankulam is in Tamil Nadu. Kakrapar is in Gujarat over Tapi River. Kalpakkam is in Tamil Nadu. Naroda is in Uttar Pradesh. Kaiga is in Himachal Pradesh. Similarly, if I talk about the nuclear power plants under construction, again Kakrapar, Rawatbhata, Kudankulam, Kalpakkam, correct? And planned nuclear power plants के अंदर जेतापुर, महाराष्ट्र, बहुत न्यूज़ में आता है. कोवदा nuclear power plant is in Andhra Pradesh, very very important. मीठी वर्दी ये भी न्यूज़ में आता है, again in Gujarat. Then Haripur is there in West Bengal. Gorakhpur is in Haryana, and Bhimpur nuclear power plant is in the state of Madhya Pradesh. तो ये planned nuclear power plants के ऊपर they may ask you the question. जेतापुर, कोवदा, मीठी वर्दी, हरिपुर. So इसकी details आपके पास होनी चाहिए, and you should have an idea about these things, right? Planned के अंदर even in Rajasthan you have Mahi Baswada over the Mahi river. You have Mahi Bajaj Sagar nuclear power plant in Baswada, Rajasthan. Then again Kaiga nuclear power plant, Karnataka. Chutka nuclear power plant in Madhya Pradesh, and Tarapur again in Maharashtra. So आपको ये छुटका पावर प्लांट, कायगा, माही बांसवाड़ा पता होना चाहिए, very very important, right? So this is a list of the nuclear power plants, very important for the exams, as you can see here in the map also. Well, moving to the next news article on the screen, India will get its semi-high speed freight train. Freight train means those trains which transport the commodities, right? Malgadi, right? In Hindi we call Malgadi, right? So India would be getting its first semi-high speed freight train which would run at the speed 160 km per hour, 160 km per hour, and it would be called as Gati Shakti train. It will start running from the month of December this year, Gati Shakti train, and it would be built at ICF, Integral Coach Factory in Chennai. And because we know that the e-commerce and the courier parcel segment is growing, and therefore the railways is thinking to tap that market in the coming future, and they expect that the e-commerce would reach $111 billion by the year 2024, $200 billion in 2026. So as you can see, it is growing at exponential growth. exponential rate, and it is expected to reach $350 billion by the year 2030. So there is huge market in e-commerce sector, and Indian Railways is looking to tap this growing market, right? So there would be two refrigerated wagons at the first wagon and the last wagon, and it would be used to ferry the perishable items such as fruits and vegetables, right? So in this sense, the railways is aiming to increase its share in freight transportation from the present 27% to 45% by 2030. So today, if I talk about the share of Indian Railways in the freight transportation, it is 27%, but the railways is targeting it, is looking to increase it to 45% by the year 2030. Right. So this is all about the freight railways, the Gati Shakti train, and then this is your national rail plan. National rail plan to create the capacity ahead of the demand by 2030, which in turn would cater to growth in the demand right up to 2050. It also is to increase the modal share of railways from 27% currently to 45% as just discussed. अब नेशनल रेल प्लान के अंदर एक है विजन 2024. विजन 2024 हैज़ बीन लॉन्च्ड फॉर एक्सीलरेटेड इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ सर्टेन क्रिटिकल प्रोजेक्ट्स सच एज. तो अब ये पूछा जा सकता है कि विजन 2024 क्या है. सो विजन 2024 एक नेशनल रेल प्लान के अंदर ही एक एक ऑब्जेक्टिव है जिसके अंदर दे टॉक अबाउट 100% रेल इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन, the track electrification, multi-tracking of congested routes, then upgradation of speed to 160 km/h on Delhi, Howrah and Delhi, Bombay routes, upgradation of speed to 130 kmph, all other golden quadrilateral and golden diagonal routes, and elimination of all level crossings on all GQ/GD route. Okay. So this is how they are are hoping to make Indian Railways as as something which would be the prime transport activity or mode of transport in India. So these are the key issues for the National Rail Plan 2030. By Make in India हो गया, enhanced customer service हो गया, and these so on and so forth, decarbonization, energy efficiency. So let's come to the editorial section. Well, there was an article about doing no justice to a vision of democracy. Guys, recently we know that on 14th of April we had the 131st birth anniversary, as it's been mentioned, 131st birth anniversary of Dr. Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar, and we had a DNA session on the contribution of Dr. Ambedkar in nation development and national integration. A video which is worth watching. Many fundamentals and concepts will be cleared. So this article talks about the ideals of Dr. Ambedkar, and are we going in the right direction? Well, 14th April was also celebrated as Day of Social Harmony in Uttar Pradesh. It was celebrated as Day of Equality in Tamil Nadu. But celebration needs substance, and it not just keeping the electoral gains in mind. So the ideals of Dr. Ambedkar must be followed in letter and spirit. They still hold true and relevant in the contemporary times. Ambedkar had a grand emancipatory vision of democracy. His worldview on economic equality, fairness and justice is known to all. He was a person being learned from School of Economics. He did his DSc. And his thesis was rupee, the problem of rupee, its origin. He was economist first, then a politician. He was a crusader of social injustice, an emancipator of the depressed classes. He worked for the rights of the depressed classes and the underprivileged. In this way, his life is a story of a person who rose from the dust to become the father of the Constitution of the country. He was a labor minister, a member of Viceroy's Council from 1942 till 1946, and through his writings such as States and Minorities, so very important, he also edited a book, States and Minorities, in the year 1947, and in this he clearly laid out his vision regarding the substance of political economy. Well, Ambedkar changed the work time. He contributed immensely to the to the working hours. He changed the work time, he reduced the work time to 8 hours per day from earlier 12 hours. But today there has been, especially after the liberalization, privatization, globalization, we have seen massive contractualization and informalization or casualization of laborers. So this is a petty state we are into, and we can see from the data that the contract workers in India have increased from 15.5% to 27% in 2015-16, even in organized manufacturing sector. Although we do have Contract Labor Regulation and Abolition Act 1970, but then the wages are not being paid based on the market rates. Also, if we violate this is a clear violation of Article 141 of the Constitution, as observed by the Supreme Court in 2016. Article 141, students, is any law declared by the Supreme Court, which says that any law declared by the Supreme Court shall be binding on all courts within the territory of India. Today, in these days, we are, talking about, and we are, going through Article 142, which is the extraordinary powers being invoked by Supreme Court to ensure complete justice in the country. Article 141 is, again, any law declared by Supreme Court shall be binding on all the courts in the territory of the country. Right. So in this sense, the wages are less. 45% were paid less than 10,000 a month. In India, 72% were people are being paid below 18,000. So it's a petty state, and it's a good article to understand that how the ideals and principles of Dr. Ambedkar still holds relevance. He always talked about equal pay for equal work, irrespective of the gender. So he always stressed on equal pay for equal work. He always talked about the rights of women, and they are included today in directive principles in part 4 of the Constitution. The principle of equal pay for equal work for men and women is embodied in Article 39 Clause D. तो ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, इस पर क्वेश्चन आ सकता है क्योंकि अम्बेडकर जयंती अभी गई है 14 अप्रैल को. तो दे मे आस्क यू दैट equal pay for equal work for men and women is embodied in which article of the Constitution? So it is Article 39 Clause D, Directive Principle Part 4 of the Indian Constitution. Correct. The 4 labor codes on wages, social security, occupational safety and industrial relations are going to worsen the situation of workers, as the author says, and even especially the Industrial Relations Code of 2020 IRC directly infringes upon the right to strike. The right to strike जो है, although it is not a fundamental right, it is but then it was being recognized by Dr. Ambedkar as one of the fundamental rights of workers. However, today it is, the constitution maker never made right to strike as a fundamental right as it is in France. So Industrial Relations Code 2020 directly infringes upon the right to strike, and this was the reason why the Indian Trade Unions Amendment Bill was passed in 1943, with the efforts of Ambedkar, which had made recognition of trade unions compulsory, right? So Ambedkar had active interest in the economics and the economic and the labor rights. He talked about political, social and economic democracy, right? So the author says that he was believer in economic justice and social justice, and today the government, which is actually undergoing monetization, sell-off and privatization of all the airports, the big airports, Indian Railways, BSNL, LIC, MTNL, is a grave assault on economic democracy. And even on Dr. Ambedkar's efforts, Labour Investigation Committee and the Labour Commissioner was being set up. So this article would help you in understanding the ideals of Dr. Ambedkar. We already had a special session on Dr. Ambedkar's contribution to national development. You can always see that. We will attach the link in the at the bottom of the video. So now the last article, the sex at work. We have understood that the brothels where the consenting sex workers are attached is being recognized by the Supreme Court of the country, and they have decriminalized it, and all the adult sex workers are entitled to dignity and equal protection under law. As it is being said by court that if you don't do so, if you don't recognize their work, and declare it as legal, then it is a clear violation of Article 21, which is right to live with dignity, right? So Supreme Court has recognized it as a profession, has recognized it as a work, and they have taken the course of Buddhadev Karmaskar 2011 case, Buddhadev Karmaskar 2011 case, where sex workers are also entitled to a life of dignity. So this was a case, Buddhadev Karmaskar 2011. Well, Trafficking of Persons Prevention, Protection and Rehabilitation Bill is yet to see the light of the day. The court invoked the powers under, again, Article 142 to issue guidelines till the legislation is in force. In 2011, it had set up a panel to look at the prevention of trafficking, rehabilitation and conditions conducive of the sex workers. So this is something which we already had yesterday, right? So you can just go through this article and how NHRC also recognized the sex workers as informal workers in the year 2020, and and these details would help you in a better understanding of the same, as we already had discussed in yesterday's class. Even Justice Verma Commission of 2012-13 has acknowledged that there is a distinction between women who are trafficked for commercial sexual exploitation and adult consenting women who are in sex work of their own volition, right? So there is a distinction between women who are trafficked for commercial sexual exploitation and those who are consenting, so therefore he recognized this difference, right? So, and this case of Buddhadev Karmaskar versus State of West Bengal 2011, where Supreme Court opined that sex workers have a right to dignity. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the session. Wish you all the best. Good day. Goodbye. God bless. Bye.